taking a Friday off, and she has a lot of things to do, so I told her I could handle it. And again, we are going to have Open Mic Friday. And your calls are welcome at 717-300-1218. That's 717-300-1218. What makes Open Mic Friday different than the rest of the week? Because we have Open Mic all week. The difference is you get to pick the topic. But I also reserve the right to refuse certain topics. So it is Open Mic Friday, 717-300-1218, and we'll talk about almost anything you want to talk about. I thought I'd give us a little update on the fires. It's in where the death toll count right now is at 31, making this the deadliest week of wildfires in the history of California, the state. Sonoma County Sheriff Robert, I can't pronounce his last name, Giordano, said Thursday night that 2 more people have been confirmed deceased, and that raises the death toll to 31. The Oklahoma Hills fire of 1991 killed 25 people by itself, and the Griffin Park fire in Los Angeles in 1933 killed 29. While no single fire currently burning has killed as many as those, State Fire Deputy Director Daniel Berlant said, collectively, this is the deadliest series of simultaneous fires in the state in recorded history. The blazes, most of them in wine country, broke out almost all at once on Sunday night. Don't know exactly yet. The rumor I heard was that it might have been an electrical line that went down and sparked. We know they can spark, that's for sure. It is Open Mic Friday. Your calls are welcome. We want to hear what you have to say on this Friday. It is Friday the 13th. I told the producer I don't want to talk about Friday the 13th. I'm not a superstitious person. It's always kind of, I don't know, if you, we know satanic stuff exists. I didn't mean do you believe in it. But I don't recognize it because I serve a higher God. Trump did something yesterday with the Obamacare. He's kind of getting put out with Congress, and if you listen to CSC Talk Radio at all, you'll know that I'm definitely put out with Congress. They are the problem. I believe they are the swamp. It does matter who you have in the White House, but presidents come and presidents go, and Congress stays. They create issues. They create problems. And then they campaign to fix those problems, but nothing ever gets fixed, just like the repealing of Obamacare. They were going to do that, remember? They've been hollering that for a long time. They didn't do it. So what did he do yesterday? The Trump administration announced on Thursday night that it will cease making payments to a subsidy that helps low to moderate income individuals purchase Obamacare health insurance plans. The U.S. government cannot lawfully continue making the cost-sharing reduction payments that help prop up the Affordable Care Act. The White House announced this in a statement. President Donald Trump's decision to nix the CSRs come after several months of flirting with the idea. The bailout of insurance companies through these unlawful payments, that's what it basically is yet another example of how the previous administration abused taxpayer dollars and skirted the law to prop up a broken system. Congress needs to repeal and replace the disastrous Obamacare law and provide real relief to the American people. Well, I'm really on board with the repeal part. I'm not really on board with the replace part, but that's me. And this met with the approval of Rand Paul, who has voted against every one of the Obamacare replacement, if that's what you want to call it, bills so far. But he says it has potential of being amazing. President Donald Trump's executive order to allow individuals and associations to purchase health insurance across state lines has the potential of being amazing. This is coming from the Kentucky Senator Rand Paul. Paul appeared on the Sean Hannity show where he sold the plan, which he has been working on with Donald Trump and with the Trump administration for a matter of months and legalizing choice. The senator said that the proposal would likely provide millions of people currently without insurance under Obamacare the opportunity to obtain low-cost options. So they're going to go around Congress if they can't do anything else. And it's a legal executive order, I suspect. It's not an illegal executive order, as we have seen in the past by other presidents, not just President Barack Obama, but other ones. I don't believe in executive orders, but it seems like we're kind of stuck with them for a little bit, or for a while, or whatever the case may be. This is Open Mic Friday. You're listening to Power Talks with Beth Ann. I want to remind you that Power Talks is sponsored at this current time solely by Discount Gold and Silver Trading. And we want you to use Discount Gold and Silver Trading with Melody. Like I said, she took the day off to get some work done. She has some personal things she has to do on Friday. She takes care of a family member and that kind of thing. And so I told her I could cover it, and I can do that. I may not be too good at much, but I can talk. I can sure talk. I don't always get it right, but I can talk. But DGScoins.com is where you go to see Discount Gold and Silver Trading. You can see what's going on there. She has a newsletter that she puts up there every Monday. It's got some great stuff in it. And to give her a call, you need to call 1-800-375-4188. That's 1-800-375-4188. Now, you know she had a special yesterday. I don't have that in front of me, but it was the, maybe I can find it here. Hold on a second. It was the pre-1933 Liberty Gold pieces. And if you buy one, it's $695. If you buy two, it's $1,390, and she pays for the shipping. And she said these are beautiful gold pieces, and that's her special, but she would probably dicker with you on something else if you have some other thing in mind that you want to get or maybe want to sell at 1-800-375-4188, which is Discount Gold and Silver Trading. I saved this for today. I kind of go through the news each day, and sometimes I mark Friday. And I had several this week that I was marking for Fridays because I kind of save news that I think is just news. It's not anything that's earth-shaking. It's just something that's out there. And I thought this was very interesting, and, you know, I've never quite understood. I guess we need to preserve the legacies of presidents and such, and the things that went on. So they always have a presidential library when they're done being president. And that is the same case with President Barack Obama. But his library is a little bit different, just a little bit different. Officials with the Obama Foundation will circumvent onerous federal standards by creating an online archive for the forthcoming Barack Obama Presidential Center instead of a traditional paper archive. Utilizing a digital presidential library also means not having to pay fees to the National Archives and Records Administration for management of the library. Are you following? The $500 million Obama Center, a soul-crushing, concrete architectural monstrosity, will feature basketball courts, a recording studio, meeting rooms, an auditorium, a children's play garden, and, of course, an exhibition hall for odes to the world historical idea of Barack Obama. Unlike every other presidential library, however, it will be bereft of historical documents. His historical documents will not be there. Some historians say that they are perplexed about the decision to cut costs by creating an online-only archive of Obama's manuscripts, letters, and speech drafts and other papers. Presidential historian Gail Troy suggested that the library-less library it's terrible for people seeking to understand the past. And he says there's always one particular person, a chief of staff, a liaison, that those collections really illuminate. When you view the collection, you meet the people around the president, not just the president. And that comes from being there, not just logging on. The University of Illinois at Chicago Manuscripts librarian Peggy Glowacki, I can't say their names, Glowacki, is also skeptical. She's not too happy about it either. And she says all archivists are waiting to see how this will work because we are all struggling with how to make things available digitally. They don't know how to do it digitally just yet. Archivists. I said that wrong. Excuse me. I think in this case, she says, it's such a massive amount of material that it will be important to see how they are able to deliver it and make it easy to search. And as I was reading this article, it's quite lengthy, and I was reading it, I was thinking about, remember President Barack Obama when he ran the first time for president in 2008 about transparency. So here, instead of having his manuscripts and everything in the library, they're all going to be digital. You'll have to go to some website or something, I guess, to log in and get it. Now, I don't know if it read in when I was just reading it to you, but when I read this earlier today, it says with those not there, he doesn't have to follow certain rules with his building. So he can do whatever he wants. And another thing, that's where he's placing it, it's going to cut off one of the main thoroughfares there in Chicago, in Illinois. And they're a little bit concerned about that. But he said, where did he say this? It said the proposed library will require the city to close Cornell Drive, a wide boulevard used each day by thousands of drivers. But President Barack Obama, in May, he said not to worry about traffic jams. He wants to avoid getting fixated on traffic, that we lose sight of what's possible. What's possible with this library? Well, apparently it's a 3-building library. It's not going to have any archives in it. A libraryless library is what the one man is calling it. So it's a $500 million Obama Center. It gives the here it says it's a focal point of the 3-building complex is a sterile angular hunk of cement with asymmetrical, haphazardly placed windows. Now, I saw a picture of it. It's not pretty. It's not pretty. It says from the ground, it looks like a drab concrete Rubik's Cube ready to tumble over on its side at any moment, crushing any number of visitors loitering on the promenade there before it. So it's not a pretty building. It's going to be something very unusual. And, unusual, we've seen that before. We always wonder about the artistic design of some of these things. But the fact that he's, we all kind of laughed about his talk about transparency, and then his administration was the least transparent of any we've seen yet. And apparently the library is going to be the same. We are going into a break. It is Open Mic Friday. Your calls are welcome at 717-300-1218. That's 717-300-1218. We're going to go to Cuba. Come back unless you take me somewhere else. 717-300-1218. This is Power Talk, and we will be.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net. Gold and silver is tremendously undervalued. Global demand vastly exceeds mine supply by more than 60% annually. There is little in the financial world more certain than a coming explosion in the prices of gold and silver. The U.S. dollar continues to lose value and respect as the world's reserve currency. Our nation faces challenges on many fronts, and a day doesn't pass without another economist bringing forth warnings of impending economic calamity. There has never been a better time than right now to acquire physical gold and silver. Discount Gold and Silver Trading was founded on the principles of truth and honesty. We believe in providing a quality product, quality service, and most importantly, competitive pricing. We provide all forms of precious metals, including American gold, silver, platinum, and rare investment and circulated coins. Silver bars, rounds, and 90% silver bags are on hand for the silver investor. Gold self-directed IRAs are available. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, that's 1-800-375-4188.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Yuji. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the Scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a reestablished Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more, using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
Years ahead of the dominant media, FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
And we have returned. You're listening to Power Talks with Beth Ann and Melody Cedarstrom. We've given Melody the day off, and I decided to open mic. And I've talked to her about that, and we're going to do this periodically and probably on a frequent basis. And so we have Open Mic Friday. We have open mic every day, but the difference is on Friday you get to pick the topic that you want to talk about. We do ask that you keep it short so we can get as many callers in as we possibly can. And there's certain topics that I either don't know enough about or we just don't want to go there that I might refuse, but I haven't refused very often. So, Power Talks. Open mic day, because we want to hear what you have to say. 717-300-1218. That's 717-300-1218. Well, it would seem that the only news that we hear about is when mainstream media is all upset, which is every day, all upset with President Donald Trump over something he said or tweeted. And, of course, now all we're hearing about is this pervert out of Hollywood. And I don't want to demean it, and I have a little article about that. I just don't like to talk about it. We know it exists. We know Hollywood is filthy. We know that they are hypocrites and two-faced. But what I have not heard is about this that's going on in Cuba. And I'd like to know if any of you have heard about this. It's a dangerous sound, what Americans have heard in Cuba attacks. So I wanted to share at least some of this with you. It says it sounds sort of like a mass of crickets, very high-pitched whine, but from what it seems undulated, even rife. And this particular website that had this article on there had they had an audio of it. And I listened to it, and this is how they describe it. There are multiple distinct tones that sound to some like they are colliding in a nails-on-the-chalkboard effect. I mean, it is an irritating noise. The Associated Press has obtained a recording of what some U.S. Embassy workers heard in Havana in a series of unnerving incidents later deemed to be deliberate attacks. The recording released Thursday by the AP is the first disseminated publicly of the many taken in Cuba of mysterious sounds that led investigators initially to suspect a sonic weapon. A sonic weapon. The recordings themselves are not believed to be dangerous to those who listen. However, it says sound experts and physicians say they know of no sound that can cause physical damage when played for short durations at normal levels through standard equipment, like a cell phone or a computer. What device produced the original sound remains to be unknown, but Americans affected in Havana reported the sounds hit them at extreme volumes. Whether there is a direct relationship between the sound and the physical damage suffered by the victims is also unclear. But the U.S. says, in general, the attacks caused hearing, cognitive, visual, balance, sleep, and other problems. The recording from Havana have been sent for analysis to the U.S. Navy. Now, Donald Trump's chief of staff, John Kelly, said yesterday, in response to the question, "We believe that the Cuban government could stop the attacks on our diplomats." So they do believe they are attacks. And I've not heard this anywhere. You know, I want to know this kind of stuff. What's going on? What can we do to help our Americans that are in Cuba? We have a caller. We have Joe from Arkansas. Joe, how are you today?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. And how are you, Beth?
I'm good, and thank you for the quote. I got that this morning in the mail. I appreciate it.
Well, it sounds like the post office is on its toes and got that there fast.
They did.
I wanted to talk about electric cars. I've heard that Paris is planning to ban gasoline and diesel-powered vehicles by the year 2030 and go to all electric cars and trucks there. And that California also is planning to ban gasoline and diesel-powered vehicles.
The state of California?
All electric vehicles. State of California, yeah.
All of them throughout the state? Interesting.
Yeah, and I heard that that's one of Jerry Brown's ambitions. And now to me, and supposedly this is supposed to be cleaner and put less carbon dioxide in the air, reduce the carbon footprint and all this kind of nonsense. But, it seems to me, just thinking about it logically, and I know a little bit about the science of the thing, I think, it just seems to me logically that this is not going to reduce any pollution or carbon dioxide emissions for this reason, that where's the electricity to run these cars going to come from? Probably from coal-fired electric plants or burning some kind of fossil fuel, natural gas or whatever it is. And so I would think that it would actually take more fossil fuel to run an electric vehicle than to run a gasoline or diesel-powered vehicle, because there's always a loss of power when you change one form of energy to another. In other words, when the car directly burns the gasoline, it takes so much gasoline. But when they first burn the gasoline, or first burn the coal, or whatever it is, whatever kind of fossil fuel they're burning to generate the electricity, when they first burn that and then convert it to electricity, I would think there's always substantial loss of power, so ultimately it would end up taking more fossil fuels to run an electric vehicle than it would to run, the vehicle directly on the fossil fuels, I would think. So it looks to me like this is more for some kind of show, to put on some kind of show, than to accomplish any real result.
Well, do you remember when the Obama administration, I can't remember what state it was, but they put in funded or subsidized, or however you want to word it, they put in a car battery factory. Mm-hmm. The car battery factory didn't sell any batteries. They didn't do enough business to stay in business, and they were being funded. And so I don't think the American people are really interested in having an electric car. I guess we'd have to plug our cars in at night like we have to plug in these crazy cell phones, make sure they're all ready to go for the next day. Don't know how far it would go. Plus, wouldn't you have to have extra batteries? You'd have to have batteries ready to go as well. How do you make a battery? I mean, it takes energy to make a battery.
Well,
it's kind of a cycle.
I think the right answer is for the free market to decide. Let anyone that wants to make an electric car build it and put it on the market, and let anyone that wants to make a gasoline or diesel-powered vehicle put it on the market, and let the people decide. Let the customers decide which one they think works better and suits their purposes better, and may the best vehicle win.
I was going to say that. You beat me to it. I think you're absolutely right. I think the American people, the consumer, can make up their mind. But if they're going to ban the other ones, then you don't have a choice, do you? Liberals are really not about choices, are they?
Absolutely not. Well, we can see on health care.
Oh my!
They think that this is one of the things I get into with liberals. The most is that they seem to think that they're nice people that want to make sure that everybody has good health care, and I tell them, I try to get it across to them that, hey, I do not want government-controlled health care. I want to take care of my own health care, and you are out to force me at gunpoint to deal with my health care the way you think I ought to. And what makes you think that you're so much smarter than me that you know better how to take care of my health care than I do? And but they never seem to get the point. They seem to just cling to this idea that the only reason they want what they want is because they're nice people who want to make sure everybody's taken care of. And they don't seem to accept the idea that some of us do not like their kindness and would rather take care of ourselves as best we can.
Well, I still believe that insurance...
And they don't think we should have the freedom to do that.
Forced insurance,
in other words,
wouldn't you
they
like
want us to be their slaves.
Wouldn't you like to have a business that the government decided to force people to buy whatever product you have? There's no option.
No.
You have to buy this product. I mean, that's what this insurance is. It's forced insurance. I mean, you have to have insurance. That's what they're telling you with Obamacare. That's what they tell you with your vehicles. You have to have insurance on it. You have to have liability. You don't have to have collision, I guess. But you have to have it. And it's forced insurance. And when insurance came into play, and I know I'm very simple-minded, and it's more complex than what I'm making it out to be, the insurance companies call the shots. They tell these doctors, they tell the hospitals, and hospitals are in on it too, how much they can charge for a procedure, and what's this and what's that. I mean, when you talk about going to the hospital and you get a little aspirin, a little pill, and it costs you hundreds of dollars, I don't know what it would be at this point in time. I've heard other people say what it costs them to get an Advil or something in the hospital, and they don't want you to bring your own in there. They're gouging you. I mean, that's what they're doing. They're gouging the American people. And without insurance, you can go to the doctor and you'll pay a whole lot less.
Well, I don't see how you can have any pride or sense of accomplishment in what you do when you have that kind of business model. Like, I make my living as an artist. I paint signs and pictures. And the only reason anybody buys anything from me is because they think I've done a really fine job. And nobody has to buy anything from me. And so it gives me a sense of satisfaction to think that I must have really done a good job, if somebody thinks it's worth paying money for what I've done here. So that gives me a certain pride and satisfaction in what I've done and in my skill and everything. And if you have a business model where people are forced to buy from you, I don't see how it can give you, that kind of pride and sense of satisfaction in what you've done.
And Joe is quite an artist. I mean, I give your website, Joe.
www.crackerjoepaintspictures.com. That's www.crackerjoepaintspictures.com. Thank you very much, Beth.
You're welcome. I haven't been able to buy any myself, but I'll tell you what, they are beautiful, and I would if I could. And I keep having this dream that I'm going to do something one day and have this big fundraiser or this big conference that people could come to, and we'll do something. In fact, Melody told me when we started Power Talk, she's always had that's kind of on her bucket list. But it takes money to do that. But when I do, Joe, we're going to have you there with your artwork because I just think it's gorgeous. It's just beautiful.
Okay,
absolutely.
Well, thank you very much again.
Your Cracker Joe's Pictures you said .com, right?
crackerjoepaintspictures.com.
.com. I had it. I have it right. I just said it wrong.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate the call. I always appreciate
hearing it to memorize something.
Well, he does, especially when you're my age. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it. Cracker Joe's CrackerJoePaintsPictures.com. Go and look at them. They're just absolutely beautiful. Joe, you do an absolute great job. Well, anyway, this going on in Cuba, I think, has been is of concern, and I'm not sure why we haven't heard anything about it on the news. And we're too busy chasing Weinstein, and I have a little something that ought to, for all my military listeners right here, might get your blood to boiling on this morning. Jane Fonda has come out and made a statement that she knew about this and she should have said something sooner. She says, I should have been braver. I should have been braver. She said he sexually harassed women for decades because he's powerful. It says the film star, who is also an active women's rights advocate, told CNN's Christine Amanpour on Thursday, yesterday, that she only found out about Harvey about a year ago. I'm not buying that either. You know, she says, I'm ashamed that I didn't say anything right then, and I wrote to the side of that, yeah, we're ashamed too, Jane. We're ashamed too. Fonda said she did not publicly speak out because she wanted to protect the accuser's privacy. I'm not buying that either. She said she now regretted staying silent. I should have been braver, and I think that from now on I will be when I hear such stories. Thank God it's being talked about now. Yeah, right. I'm not buying this out of Hollywood. They have been so horrible to get along with, pushing their agenda. They are rich, spoiled, some of them pretty people, and they don't like you, us commoners, us deplorables. They don't like us. And yet we're the ones that, how much do you spend going to the movies to see their movies? I avoid Jane Fonda movies. But how much do you spend? And they get rich on that. And then they look down at you and they dare to tell you how to live, who you should allow in your communities, in your neighborhoods. Speaking of the illegals, they're constantly on that. But you don't see them doing anything. Oh, they probably throw $1 here or $1 there, 100,000 here or 100,000 there because they're rich. Well, you and I are barely making it. And they went all over President Donald Trump. I will not defend him for his lewd remarks way back when that came back to haunt him. But they knew about this guy. They knew about the other one. I can't think of his name right now. That he escaped. He was taking advantage of 13-year-old little girls. They ignore all that. And the liberals ignore all that. They got up and had their big rally about the nasty women. But they're the worst ones when it comes to actually standing up and defending women. They're all talk, hot air, no action. Jane Fonda was plenty brave when she was turncoat on our soldiers when they were in Vietnam. Yeah. She was brave then, wasn't she? But not now. No. Not to save young women. It's sad what goes on in Hollywood. What they demand of these, not just the young women. Not just the young women. They're perverts. Take advantage. We've heard this years and years ago. Years and years ago. Rock Hudson was one. Years. They use and abuse people for their own selfish desires, whether it be monetary or the physical, for power. And they thumb their noses at us and tell us how to live. And I quit that a long time ago. I am not somebody who really idolizes anyone. I never have been anybody's groupie. I have certain bands that I like to listen to and that, but I'm not somebody that just drools over them. all the women that were screaming in the audiences when these performers were going on. I remember my mom and dad making they just thought it was horrible what the women were doing. They were screaming for the Beatles, and they did that with so many of the different performers, throwing parts of their clothing up on the stage, just totally bizarre. But I've never been somebody that idolized people. I found that people will always disappoint you, and you'll find that out as well. Even if it's me, I'm just, what sets me apart from other talk show hosts is I'm you. I am you. I'm no different than you. I grew up in middle class home. My mother didn't work when I was growing up, but once we moved out of the city and down to the country, she did go to work, and she was a registered nurse. She worked night shift. Mom never drove. Dad drove her to the hospital, and he came back home. Then he went in the morning and picked her up and came back home. Mom slept for the day and went back again. My dad he worked in a factory when we were in the city. He worked at Owens Corning Fiberglass. And then he also tuned pianos. I remember when he went to classes, he learned that night class. And he practiced on our piano, and he practiced all night. It seemed like all night, tuning that piano, bing, bing, bing. Then he went into full-time piano tuning when he moved down to the country. Had his own business when he was in the city, too. Plus, he worked for 2 other music companies. So he struggled. I mean, he had to travel quite a ways. Price of gas made a difference. The vehicle had to run good. We only had one vehicle. You had to get permission if you were of the driving age to take the vehicle out, and Dad wrote down the mileage all the time. And, it was, I'm just you. I grew up like you did. We had the struggles. There was 5 of us kids. We struggled like anyone else. And, weren't spoiled. Mom and Dad didn't like to spoil us. We had chores, we had to work, and they didn't believe in allowances either. They said, nope, you're part of the family, you just do the job. Well, speaking of doing the job, Congress doesn't seem to do their job, do they? I kind of get off on that. If you listen at all, you'll know how I feel about Congress. And I'm put out with them. Very put out with them. We're going to go to the phones. I got another caller here, Neil from Missouri. Neil, how are you today?
Oh, I'm doing all right. Just sitting here listening to your show. You brought up the issue a little bit earlier about licensing. But you were talking about the insurance. The medical insurance. Medical insurance is being illegally forced on people. There's no constitutional cause for what they're doing for that. However, on your car insurance, your vehicle liability insurance, that's technically voluntary. And how the people volunteered, to be regulated by that is through applying for the license. Once you apply for a business license, and driving is a business license, your driver's license is your business license. The only difference between the commercial business license, the commercial CDL, the commercial driver's license, and the private driver's license is the amount of mileage or use on the vehicle. If it's under 50% of the time or mileage on the vehicle, then you can operate it with a private driver's license, unless in some cases it's over a certain gross maximum weight. This is all in the statute books. So when you voluntarily got the driver's license, which is permission to commit the crime of trespass on the public right-of-way, you entered into a business relationship with the state. And when you do that, you entered into a regulated enterprise, you have to obey all the rules of that enterprise. So technically, car liability insurance is a voluntary thing, which is similar to the voluntary use of the Federal Reserve note. They always tell you that, paying income tax is voluntary. Well, you volunteered to pay the tax when you voluntarily use the Federal Reserve note. That's where the tax comes in. So people need to understand how they're volunteering, to pay all these taxes. And that's a matter of getting in and studying a little bit on the statute books and studying a little bit about the law.
All right. I appreciate it. I've said for a long time the license and the permits and all that, they're just extra taxes on us. And it's a way of controlling people. I appreciate the call, Neil. Thank you.
Sure.
Appreciate it very much. What I was getting ready to talk about was the tax reform. Of course, we were just talking about taxes. We were just talking about license and that kind of thing. Well, the Commerce Secretary, Wilbur Ross, he mentioned yesterday that tax reform is one of the most important, he says it is the most important thing on Donald Trump's legislative agenda right now. But that he's facing Congress that is more concerned about procedure than results. Well, I think they use procedure as an excuse. That's just Beth's opinion. Because they don't really want tax reform. They don't really want to repeal Obamacare, except with a few of them. I believe Rand Paul really wanted to repeal it. They don't really want to build a wall. They didn't really want him messing with the trade. And they didn't really want him, I would bet you they didn't really want him messing with the Iran deal, because they handed that pretty much on a silver platter to President Barack Obama. To wash their hands of it, so to speak. Yeah. I'm not trusting of Congress. Going into a break, it is free. It is Open Mic Friday. It's Free for All Friday on CSC Talk Radio when we come up in another hour. But right now, it is Open Mic Friday. We want to hear what you have to say. 717-300-1218. 717-300-1218. You're listening to Power Talk.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net. Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188. The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on Internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the Internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening. Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
And Melody took the day off, and we're having open mic day, open mic Friday, because we want to hear what you have to say. So we've got some callers Y'all waited till the last segment. We got some callers holding, and we're going to go to Arthur in Illinois. Arthur, what's on your mind today?
Good morning, Beth. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
There was a video done. I don't know if I said this to you guys before. There was a video done by a guy in Bulgaria who did background checks on all of the members of Congress. They're all Communist Party, and indirectly and directly. And it's the Council on Foreign Relations that keeps the Communist parties in the legislative branch. Yeah. A lot of people don't know that.
CFR is not a good thing.
No, they're the ones that can keep the Congress all communist. They're the ones that helped Obama get in there, all these idiots. It's the money, man, the rich people, Yeah. I just wanted to make that comment. But, there is a video out about that. It was a guy from Bulgaria who did the video. I forget his name offhand, but very interesting video. I'll tell you what, I could give you guys the information when I pick up that video. You can pass it on.
Okay. And you can give us that by going to powertalks@yahoo.com as well.
No big deal. Thanks, Beth. Okay. You guys have a wonderful day. Okay,
Thank you,
bye-bye.
Arthur. Appreciate it. Bye. We have Kevin from Ohio. Kevin, how are you today?
Good morning. I hope you can
Good morning. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Good.
I wanted to comment on what I've heard about that Hollywood idol business about that Weinstein or whatever. That I heard the undercover recording playback twice, and you can hear this demonic thing curse his own children in that tape, where he's trying to lure in that young cop, undercover woman, and he's saying, "I swear by my children, I'm not going to do anything." Can you imagine cursing your own family?
Yeah.
It's demonic. It's totally demonic. And no one that I've heard address that little phrase that's in his talk with that woman, undercover woman, and it's just the epitome of evil to curse your own children in a commission of a sin.
And all those in Hollywood that knew about this.
Today, Ben.
Yeah, I'm having trouble hearing you too. But all those people in Hollywood that knew that this man did this to these young women, that was his way, they're just as guilty in my book. They're just as guilty. And anyway, go ahead, Kevin.
Sorry, this is a bad connection for me, but I just wanted to bring that up. It's totally demonic.
Absolutely.
It's all part of this shakedown of our country. Read a wonderful thing on the Burning Bush, one of the real good platform writers on the internet, that every single thing atrocity-wise we're seeing with the destruction of Christianity in this country is relatable 100 years back at the start of the Bolshevik Revolution, and how all those stinking words Bolshevik mean all their meanings to them, and destruction of the Tsar of Prussia, so forth. It's horrible. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I appreciate it. Sorry we're having such a bad connection. Appreciate it, Kevin. Thank you. Thank you. I have a story here. We talk about evil and selfishness. And I know we like to label people. I don't particularly like to label people. But this is a story of and I shared this on CSC Talk Radio yesterday. Because, most of my listeners are rural America, and maybe you are here too as well. And I am an advocate for rural America. I have a lot of farmers and ranchers and cattlemen and hog producers, pork producers, and I have, farmers that listen. Sometimes they're out in their combine, and they're listening to CSC Talk Radio. And I don't know if you're aware so much here as they are on the other side of my listeners, that rural America is under attack by the agendas of the radical animal rights groups. PETA, ASPCA, HSUS, which is Humane Society of the United States, which has nothing to do with the United States. And they do their commercials, and they act like they're all for saving abused little puppies and doggies and kitty cats. And the truth is they're not. That's not what they're about. What they're really about is making sure that you don't have a pet, because animals have the same rights as a human being, and they don't want you to eat meat. That's what they really want. Well, this is a Pennsylvania vegan, and she has a food truck business. Well, she had a food truck business. Some people, you wonder why they do the things they do, if they just keep their mouths shut. I'm okay with her being a vegan. I have no problem. If that's the way she wants to be, that's fine. I could do that easier than other people in my family. If you don't know me yet, you know that I'm married, and I raised 5 sons. Well, I'm going to tell you what, 5 boys can eat you out of house and home. And you're not going to get them bulked up and beefed up. At least I wasn't able to keep them satisfied on vegetables alone. They did eat their vegetables, but they wanted their meat. The owner of this vegan truck, and she's out of Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, she was forced to shut down her business and go into hiding after receiving a blowback from her Facebook post celebrating. She celebrated the fate of what she called the 59 meat eaters who died the week previous in the mass shooting in Las Vegas. The Mother Nature Vegan Cuisine food truck is now out of business, the article says, after the owner, Delinda Jensen, she's 60 years old, you'd think she would know better, drew massive criticism for posting, and she did this on October the 2nd, her message on Facebook, and it read like this: "Yes, I am jaded. 59 meat eaters dead. How many animals will live because of this?" That's what she said. And, of course, we had certain people out of Hollywood and certain gun control advocates when this happened saying they deserved to die because they were probably Trump supporters and NRA members. Sometimes I think that liberals absolutely have no heart. They have no heart. They are so self-absorbed and so selfish, and they worship themselves or whatever it is. Of course, they don't necessarily believe in a God or our God or the God. You know, when I shared the useful idiots, it doesn't say anything about what you eat necessarily, but it talks about the 8 points of bringing in a socialistic state. And in those 8 points, they absolutely admit to why they want gun control. And they absolutely admit in religion that there is a God. And under the gun control, which is number 4 of these 8 points, and I think I pointed this out last week, remove the ability to defend themselves from the government. They didn't say so they can quit hunting. And it says, when you do this, then you are able to create a police state. And in the religion, which is number 7 of these planks, remove the belief in the God from the government and the schools. So, talk about, what Kevin was saying and Arthur, talk about evil. They're admitting that there is a God, and we're going to remove him. We don't want them to follow God's ways or rely on God. We want them to rely on government. And gun control, they admit, we're going to take them away so that they can't fight the government. They admit it. How many times did I read that before I realized exactly what it was saying? Listening to Power Talks. And we will be back on Monday, and we wish you a very happy weekend.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, C-R-O-S-S, crosstheborder.org to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The book of Revelation says, "The spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ." This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.